water is just always recycled. It never is, it's a finite resource, and it's very likely that that water in there, Moses drank that sometime. You think that's not true? Come on, go the right way up. What's wrong with it? Don't be stupid. Okay. All right. I did read that somewhere, by the way. I didn't make it up. Apparently water is just constantly recycled. And there's a lot of other people who have drunk that water before you, and perhaps Galileo or King George III, or somebody's drunk your water before you drank it. There is no such thing as really fresh water. Okay. Go to Matthew 6. Please. I'll go to Matthew 6, verse 25. Some of this came out in the gifts tonight. Some of what I wanted to talk about. And I guess the whole thing is that Alice told me not to say this when I got up here, because somebody else was supposed to do the talk tonight, and Pastor Ward called me and said, help, I need somebody to give a talk. So this is a recycle talk from 2016. Just goes to show you how well in tune the Lord is with everything that goes on. There's a lot of things that were said in the gifts tonight that are in the talk, and I was just amazed when it all came up. So, to go forward, Matthew 6:25 says, "Therefore I say unto you, take no thought for your life, what you shall eat, what you shall drink, nor yet for your body, for what you shall put on, or what you shall put on. Is not the life more than meat, and the body than raiment?" The word thought is in the Greek, in its conjugated form here, is merimenate, and comes from the root word is merimeneo. And it means, in this particular form, that Jesus is speaking in the present time. It's an active statement, but it's an imperative, and it's the second person plural. So he is speaking to the crowd in general and saying, don't be anxious, is really what the word means. When he says, take no thought for your life, don't be anxious about it. And he's really not just being a philosopher here, he's making, because the word is an imperative, he's making a very, very strong statement. He's really wanting you to take notice of this, because it's important for you to know it. When we follow this through, we find there in Matthew 6:34, go down to Matthew 6:34. And the English translation in Matthew 6:34 says, "Therefore take no thought for the morrow shall take thought of the things of itself. Sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof." It's very similar, slight differences, and the same word is used there, and it doesn't show up in the Greek so much. It just shows up as therefore take for tomorrow, for the morrow, for tomorrow, thought for things of itself, sufficient unto the day the evil thereof is. So if you got that, that's pretty good. But that's how it's sort of written in the Greek. And it's the same word when it says take. There's no particular one word that translates into the English for that. So take no thought, again, is very similar. It's just slightly different. It's a subjunctive, which I don't know. Who knows what a subjunctive is? No. Okay, lesson in grammar. A subjunctive is the possibility of things happening. Looking forward and thinking about the possibilities of what might happen. And so this statement here says, take therefore no thought for the morrow shall take thought of things of itself, is sometimes we can get ourselves bogged down in life by thinking about what's going to happen tomorrow and basing what is going to happen tomorrow on what has happened today, which is not a very good thing to do, because I'm sure if I ask for a show of hands and said, how many times in your life has anybody ever, the day before tomorrow, thought this is all going to happen tomorrow, had planned it all out, and tomorrow is like all the plans just went away. Nothing like you thought was going to happen actually happens. And it's interesting because I've done these sorts of things myself. You go and you make all your plans, and it doesn't happen the way you think it's going to happen. I'll talk to my builder friend here. That got him going. Popped up. In the business that he's in, and I know a bit about that because we work together from time to time. When you start on renovating a house, my goodness, you know everything about what's going to happen tomorrow because you've got X-ray eyes, you can see inside that wall, you can see underneath that floor, you can see everywhere, and you make all your plans according to what your X-ray eyes tell you, and you go to work the next day all geared up for what you think you know. And lo and behold, what you thought you know isn't really what you knew. And it turns out to be different. I don't think I've ever started anything that has not sort of been like the proverbial snowball that as it goes down the road, it just gets bigger and bigger and faster, and it just is more than what you expected. Any time you renovate a house, renovate anything, it always ends up being a lot more than what you expected. It doesn't always happen that way. Sometimes it goes the other way and it's sort of better than what you thought, but it's rare. It's rare in that particular instance anyway. But I'm sure if I said, well, do you think tomorrow, your tomorrow, is going to be exactly like you think it will be? Put up your hands if you think your tomorrow is going to be exactly like you think it's. In your mind, you've got it planned out. Tomorrow's going to be like this. And you see no hands. Because the reality is, it will never be like you think it's going to be. There will always be something that's going to be different. And Brother Bill just thought he's going to nap all day tomorrow. And he's not taking into account Max. But the idea there is that what Jesus is talking about here is you go through life thinking about all the possibilities that can happen tomorrow. you're operating in what they call the subjunctive. It's the possibilities, the maybes, the hope-sos, all those kinds of things. I made a statement to my wife last night. I said, because I'm doing renovating. I'm doing renovating the office, paint the walls, put a floor down, all that kind of stuff. And I said, I should have the floor finished tomorrow. And she looked at me like, right. You realise that's probably not going to happen. Well, it didn't. So, but I had grand ideas. So really, it was a good idea. It was very satisfying too, but it didn't happen. I'm not necessarily disappointed because it's turning out okay, but I've still got work to do. So when we look at this, are we going through life, living our day-to-day life, being anxious about tomorrow? What's going to happen tomorrow? And when tomorrow, I dare say for a lot of us that are in a regular sort of a job situation, tomorrow probably is going to be similar to what you think it might be, but there will always be the curveball that comes along, and it's the unexpected, it's the impossible possible that happens. Even as a housewife, you cook, and something happens, and my wife says, "Oh, I forgot to put something in the cookies." And she'd given me a cookie. She said, "How's that taste?" "Oh, fine to me. All Alice's cookies are good." And she said, "Oh, but I left out." And she'll name this ingredient she left out. I said, "I wouldn't have known." Now that's probably the wrong answer, because she could leave anything out and I probably wouldn't have known. So I could do anything to my cookies and you would never know. That's not altogether true. But I think, I forget what it was she left out one day, and she said, "I left this out." And she said, gave me one. "How's it taste?" "Fine, I ate them, no problem." I never have a problem with Alice's cookies. Some are better than others, and she knows which ones are better than others, but they're all great cookies. Seems like everyone else thinks they are too. So we look at this. How is your life? How is your life? Is your life constantly in turmoil because you're constantly thinking about tomorrow? You're not just dealing with the day that you've got in hand. You're thinking, well, I've got to work my way through this, and I'm pretty good at this little thing. I will put off until tomorrow something I could have done today. At least that much I know about tomorrow. I'm going to do it tomorrow. So it doesn't always get done tomorrow, maybe the day after, but I've always got something out there that I can do. And but is that your life? That you're looking at tomorrow and thinking, this is going to happen, this is something else is going to happen, this is my plan, this is where it all goes down the road. And I think every one of us would say that for a good deal, for a good number of our days, they don't always go the way that you think they're going to go. There's always the unexpected. There's always the little curveballs that life throws at you. And you go, wow, I never expected that. Wow, that's amazing. So don't worry about tomorrow, because Jesus says today's bad enough. Even if you're having a good day, today's bad enough. You know, maybe you can look forward to a better day than you're having. But today's bad enough to worry about. You know, just do what you're supposed to do today. You know, so I've been saying to people recently, so today's the day. Tomorrow the Lord comes back. One day I'm going to be right. If I keep saying that, one day, tomorrow the Lord's coming back. I'll be right at least once. But does it matter? It's, you know, tomorrow I'll get up and I'll finish the floor. And I hope it all goes well. So now I'm in the subjunctive now, so I'm looking at possibilities and maybes and hopefullys. And you do that in your life. And you think, well, I've got to deal with this person tomorrow. I hope that goes all well. And people have a tendency to disappoint us in life. Not always, but in life that happens. People disappoint us. Sometimes it's people we are really close to that disappoint us. But why worry about that today? You've got a life today. You can't live beyond the moment you're in. You think you can plan your life out, and yet we see on the news all the time, life is very fragile. It could be taken away from you at any time at all. Age is not, death does not respect age. You don't have to be old to die. There's lots of people who die young. And so for those people, the tomorrow looked great. They were going to be living beyond that tomorrow and going on to a good old long life, and yet it's cut off. I'm not looking forward to anybody here having that happen, but why are we worried about tomorrow? We're getting the blessing today. Are you worried about the blessing for tomorrow? Oh, will the Lord bless me tomorrow like He's blessed me today? How would I know that? How would you know that? It's not tomorrow. And when it's tomorrow, it'll be today, tomorrow. And that's the day, that's the only day you've got to worry about, is today, the one you're living in. That's it. You can't change yesterday. That's history. Today is where it's all working. Tomorrow is a maybe. So Jesus is right. Why are you anxious? And this whole idea of the anxiousness is like, it was described in one of something I read today, it's described as roiling waters. It's like rapids. And you can imagine the turmoil that's just under the surface in the rapids. We can see it, and sometimes people think they can just walk across the rapids, and walk, never see them again. And that's life. Life is full of turmoil. How are you going to deal with it? Is it you're going to deal with it living in this constant state of terror about what might happen? Because that's what Jesus is saying, don't do. Don't live in this constant state of terror about what might happen tomorrow. There might be around the corner tomorrow some great blessing, one that's totally unexpected. But we don't know that. So you can't go to the bank on that. Not today. Tomorrow, when it happens, if it happens, yes. But that'll be today then. It won't be tomorrow. So don't get caught up in the things about the unstable person as well. He's unstable in all of his ways. So the double-minded man. Oh, I'm looking forward to tomorrow because tomorrow is going to be so good. And it turns out to be a real dud. And you get caught up with that. And you think, I thought. We know another guy in the scriptures that said, I thought that he would send me off to this field. I thought he'd come out and see me. And he didn't come out. I thought he'd put his hand over the stricken part and I'd be healed. And no, none of that happened. And his servant said, just go down to the Jordan and dip yourself 7 times. It'll work. Sometimes we've got to do the smaller things, the humble things to get the peace that we need. And he did that. He went and did that. And he got the victory. He was healed. That verse is in James chapter 1 verse 6. It says, but let him ask in faith, nothing wavering. For he that wavers is like a wave of the sea driven with the wind and tossed. And a little note there, it says, see the waves that crash against the rocks during a storm, how they turn back on the next wave as they are brought to a stop on the rocks. When you're wavering and you're double-minded, you can run up against the immovable object and it gets thrown back. And you say, oh wow, what happened there? You know, what really happened there? So we just need to really understand that this is not what Jesus wants in our life. He wants us to be very happy. And the only way we can be happy is Proverbs 3:5. You know, trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not to your own understanding. When you lean to your own understanding, you start making plans for tomorrow that may not ever work out. That's not you say, you know you've got to go to work, or you've got to go to school. There's certain things you're going to have to do, but the details of what's going to happen tomorrow, you don't know. We really don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I'm planning on finishing my floor tomorrow. But if the Lord comes back, I don't care. I won't finish the floor. Maybe somebody else will do it, because there'll be a vacant house at 3306 East Saginaw, among others, the other vacant houses. And I won't be troubled. I won't be like the waves crashing against the rocks about my floor at all. I can plan it, but will it happen? No. John 14, verse 1. And again, in the Greek, there's only one word here. It's translated as a phrase, let not your heart be troubled. And the word troubled there is, again, it's something that is troubling, disquieting. It sort of reflects an idea of inner turmoil. I dare say in that world, in that culture, things weren't going well for them. Things were decidedly difficult. They were under Roman occupation, a thing they didn't like, and it was a very rigid system. And Jesus says, don't let your heart be troubled. Don't be, the word heart, cardia, is the seat of the emotions in the Greek, and it means to, don't let your emotions get out of control. It means to agitate, trouble, a thing by the movement of its parts to and fro, to cause one inward commotion, take away his calmness of mind, disturb his equanimity. Not sure I know what that word means. To disquiet, to make restless, to stir up, to strike one's spirit with fear and dread. I don't know how many of you have ever had those little moments in life where you wake up in the morning and you think, oh my goodness, something terrible is going to happen today. You just feel like something terrible is going to happen today. And you get through the day feeling like this dreadful thing's going to happen, and by the end of the day nothing's happened. And you're relieved at least that nothing's happened, but you always wonder about what it might have been. Don't do that. We don't want to be stirred up inside, this inner turmoil all the time. And Jesus says, don't let your heart, don't let your emotions be stirred up and in constant turmoil. Has an uncertainty about it. You're uncertain, you can't put your finger on it, you can't make decisions the right way. It's just, life is not what you want it to be, or you think it ought to be. And it goes back to the day thing. Just worry about today. Let not your heart be troubled. Believe in God. You believe in God? Believe also in me. In my Father's house there are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again. And that's what we always, that's our tomorrow for us. We're always looking forward to the return of the Lord. And we look around us and how bad everything is getting in this world, and we're thinking to ourselves, how much longer? How much longer is it going to be before the Lord comes back? Some of us might be thinking, well, I don't want you to come back quite yet because I've got a lot of things to do. It won't matter. You'll forget them very quickly. It won't be a problem to forget the things that you thought you wanted to do, because everything else is going to be so much better when the Lord comes back. So much better than this life could ever be, even being filled with the Spirit and having a hope that we know about. When the Lord comes back, it's going to be better, way better. I will come again and receive you to myself, that where I am, there you may be also. So Jesus wants us to be with him. He tells us that his peace is the peace that passes understanding. He says, I give you peace, my peace, not as the world gives you. It's my peace. We heard in the gifts that Jesus, being the Son of God, had to go through his life and go through and take it out to its end. But in all of that, he had peace, because his Father had made promises to him, promises that he couldn't go back on, because God can't break promises. And if he can't break promises, the peace that he's promised to us is available to us. It's the peace that is beyond our comprehension. It's the peace that we love to have. There's many people that have come and been baptised and filled with the Holy Spirit talk about this peace. All of a sudden I had peace in my life. I never had it before. I've got peace in my life. I've got direction. I know where I'm going. I know God's true. I know Jesus is true. I know they're alive. I know the Bible's true. So many of these statements are all fulfilled promises by God. And if he fulfills all of those promises, he's going to fulfill the great promise of all. He's going to come back for us. He will come back. And we have to keep our eyes looking on that tomorrow, that Jesus Christ is coming back. He's not going to get somewhere and perhaps on Halloween and say, trick or treat. Sorry, not a promise. It was only a maybe. It's not going to happen like that. Jesus Christ is coming back. And we are, our peace is wholesome. It's good. It's right. The peace that we have with the knowledge of Jesus Christ coming back. We're his people. It's an amazing piece of information, isn't it? We are his people, filled with the Holy Spirit. God has chosen us. We heard that again in the gifts tonight. I have filled you with my Spirit. You are my people. That alone, without anything else, has got to give us a real foundation to build a life on. It's not a life that should be filled with turmoil, the roiling waters, hitting up against the unstoppable, the immovable object and bouncing back from it. Nothing. Those things. Yes, trials come, but trials go. Trials come and go. That's all they are. It's just a trial. It's a test, as somebody so wisely said. There's no testimony without the test. And we have these times when we go through our tests, our trials. But overshadowing all of that should be the knowledge that we've got the peace and the ability to go through those things. So we praise the Lord for what God has done. And all the people said, Amen. We'll have a time of prayer. If that needs.